Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jaya Kula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. I just wanted to say a little more about honesty. I keep getting re-impressed upon that we're living in this ocean of dishonesty and manipulation and gaslighting, and it's very damaging for us. This is very hard for us to digest, and it's very bad for our health, and it's bad for our sense of well-being. We had a birthday party last night, and I can't remember what the context was, but people had devised these questions, and then people were coming with these funny answers to these questions. I know I'm not describing it well, sorry, but it was a game invented by you guys, right? There was sort of these open-ended questions that you had to finish it, like exquisite corpse, and then there were these nouns and noun phrases that you could choose to finish with. Anyway, somebody asked a question, and my answer was something about this time period is how much masking there is and how much people are involved in presenting some sort of persona or personality, and how much fear there is about being judged, how much fear there is of showing oneself honestly, even fear of spontaneity, really. I've talked about this before in the context of how many revelations there have been about misconduct by spiritual teachers, and also the atmosphere that we're in, where we're just subjected to the most gross forms of misconduct, and how important it is for me personally to commit myself to being honest more than ever. I want us to radically commit ourselves to being honest with each other. And me in particular, I mentioned this the other night, there is built into the teacher-student relationship in these kinds of traditions a degree of fear. I felt a degree of fear about some of my teachers, not all of them, but some of them, just because they were so fierce. And also, you just never knew what was going to come out of their mouth. I mean, it could be anything. It wasn't just fear, it was also just thrill. Like the thrill was there too. And so in that situation, people who are afraid of being judged, who have a certain kind of reticence about showing themselves, who have this habit pattern of masking, and I don't mean in necessarily pathological ways, just in the ordinary ways that people mask and try to project a habitable personality or persona or acceptable personality. Sometimes in some instances, I feel like people are talking to me and I'm talking to something that's being projected out of them. And then a lot of stuff gets projected on me too, like what they think I want and what they think I'll be pleased with. The only thing I'm really pleased with is naturalness. So I would like, and we can talk about this because of course you can refuse, but I would like everyone, including the people online who have a relationship with me or with other people in this community, to really recommit ourselves or commit ourselves to a deeper level of honesty and rawness and spontaneity. I realize we can't just do this. If you have a lifetime habit of forming some sort of personality that you're shopping around, or some kind of masking that's happening, or holding back or withholding, or whatever you're doing. I mean, aggressiveness can also be a kind of personality brand too. It's not just about holding back. But that tends to be less the case in this community anyway. I would love it if you would commit yourself to really doing some letting go in that area, stepping out and having more courage about not monitoring your behavior and your speech, and not lying in any particular way that you lie. And when I say lying, I mean the whole spectrum, from socially acceptable lies to blatant self-serving untruths. As I said last week, I just think it's so important right now that we do this for each other, so that there can be a level of feeling of relaxation for the people that normally are hiding in some way or another, hiding behind brashness or hiding behind softness or hiding behind politeness, hiding behind pretending to be compassionate, hiding behind whatever you're hiding behind. I would just like to encourage everybody to do some work around not doing that so much anymore, as much as you possibly can. We've all built some sort of personality construct that we're hiding behind, or many people have. And I have to say, it's not really that interesting. It's certainly not what I want. Anybody who thinks they're doing anything to get my approval like that, that's not happening. I mean, you're not getting my disapproval, but you're definitely not sparking my interest. When you come to me with stale, repetitive personality stuff that you're continually doing. Let me know what your thoughts are about this. I really feel it's so important right now for our health and well-being and kindness, just basic kindness to ourselves and other people. We need to form an alternative to all this bullshit. And the reason why you are masking, and the reason why you are lying, and the reason why you are people-pleasing, and the reason why you are grandstanding and being prideful about this, that, and the other thing habitually is because you've been trained to by the same system that you say you're resisting and want to topple. That's why you're doing it, because we live in a system where everyone is trying to claw their way into some sort of approval, constantly making bids for approval and dominance. Who does that sound like?
Hey, Shambhavi, I have been doing a lot of work with honesty. It's like something is shaking loose and there's so much sadness and this other kind of wobbliness that is coming up. It's been really powerful and really, really, really scary. It doesn't feel possible to go back to these patterns of dishonesty. And what am I kind of left with? You know, what's next?
That's a fantastic question. And it is a question you shouldn't answer. One of the great skills of spiritual life and any kind of real growth is the ability to just let yourself be carried through those interbits between something that's fading away and something that hasn't arrived yet. And that's where it feels scary, groundless, messy, chaotic, confusing, dark, sad, even terrifying sometimes. The ability to just let yourself be carried along by that, and you are moving. You're not just sitting still in that, but you are being moved. So in our spiritual life, in our personal life that's integrated with spiritual life, the ability to just let yourself be carried through those moments without trying to decide what comes next. Because what comes next is always the same thing in different forms, but it's always the same thing. And you won't discover that for yourself if you don't let yourself be messy and scared and sad, and however this shows up for you. It doesn't show up as sadness for everybody, but for a good chunk of people it does. But also it shows up as just confusion, self-doubt, uncertainty. Am I moving forward? Am I moving backwards? I don't know. That can happen. So the thing is to just stick to your practice, stick to your honesty. You're being carried by wisdom. You can have that confidence. Now, I've known you for a very long time, and I know one thing about you, and hopefully this is something that now isn't as determinative in your life, but you are afraid of fear. And I just want to say to you that it's okay to be afraid. It's just deeply uncomfortable. That's all. There's nothing actually dangerous about it. So I encourage you, now you've arrived at this interim and you feel scared. And I really, really encourage you. This is an opportunity to increase your capacity. And one of those capacities is to let yourself just be afraid without bothering to try to fix it. If you could do that, your attraction to mitigating fear in all the ways you have is going to go way down. If you can demonstrate to yourself that you can be afraid and just be that uncomfortable and not do anything to fix it, that will be gold for you as a human being and a practitioner. So don't even ask the question, what comes next? I'll tell you what comes next. In general terms, will be a surprising increase in your ability to feel intimacy and more confidence. Those things always arrive from these kinds of passages, 100% of the time, unless you try to solidify a new situation too soon and on your own by just like thinking something up. There is wisdom. Wisdom is carrying you. You don't need to make anything up. The answer's already built into every aspect of reality, and including yourself. The answer's already there. You don't need to invent it. You don't need to think what it is. And whatever happens next, whatever form it takes, will just arise naturally and become very apparent to you. And you can then, in a sense, choose that. But following is what should be happening now. Letting these things, these feelings just happen. Don't worry about them. Don't try to even investigate them. Who cares? They're feelings, they're energies. They can be intense, they can be destabilizing, but actually we need to be destabilized in order for the new to come. And in my life as a practitioner and just a person, I found that just being able to sit through these things and let them take us wherever they want to take us, there's always a surprising reward on the other side. So recognize this as an opportunity. You did the things needed to bring about this opportunity. So don't bypass it. Don't be too reasonable. And don't worry about being uncomfortable.
Sometimes I'll realize in retrospect that I lied or said something people-pleasery. When is it worth going back to that person and correcting what I said versus just trying to catch myself the next time?
I mean, there's no formula. I think some of the time it's worth it. You're just going to have to judge that. It's more about you being more naked in front of people. Like the point of going back and saying I lied, or really I said I wanted to do that, but I really don't, is more for you. I mean, unless you tell a really big damaging lie, then it's for the other person too. But just all those little lies that get told and little people pleaseries, to tell people that you've done that, to acknowledge that, will give you more capacity to not do it again the next time. But that doesn't mean you have to like religiously do it every time. You can feel that out.
Could you make a distinction between being honest and using discretion? Because it seems to me that when there are things where I'm in a situation where I'm sharing something with somebody that might be tricky, or it might be sticky, or it might be difficult, there's all kinds of ways in which I can say that thing. And I know that I go through a deliberate process of what is the kindest way in which I can say this thing. Should I just let go of that because that is too much?
Well, it depends. If you're really feeling kindness, then going through that kind of process isn't a bad thing. I mean, if you had more practice under your belt, or however long that would take, it would just be spontaneous. You wouldn't have to go through the mental exercise. But if you're actually feeling kindly, that's fine. If you're not, then you need to just do nothing or say something that's more honest.
So this is as much about the feeling state as the word.
A lot of the time when people say, I want to do the compassionate thing, they're actually quite angry. They don't feel compassionate. And then it just comes out kind of cringy. The idea of this kind of tradition is that we're trying to contact natural kindness and a desire for people's well-being and have our actions and words come from that. We're not trying to fake it till we make it. So if I were feeling less than kindly towards somebody, I might do some inner work to try to contact that kindness again and wait until I had done that. And that doesn't mean waiting until we don't have other feelings. So a lot of people think, well, if I'm feeling kindly, that means I'm not angry and I'm not sad and I don't feel something more difficult. That doesn't. Kindliness and compassion can exist alongside a lot of other feelings. So it's not like we're waiting until some other feeling subsides. We just need to get in touch with our natural kindness before we act. And for some people, that might just take a split second. It's not necessarily like you have to go on retreat or something. It might just be reminding yourself to turn toward that kindness. It might be very present for you, or it might take more time than that. But it gets easier and faster as you go along. So the idea in this kind of tradition is we're doing this. There is kindness. There is compassion. It's built into reality. It's part of who we are, every one of us, not just some of us. And some of us are more blocked from it than others, but it's part of each of our essence natures. And what practices like we do are doing is breaking down the barrier between ourselves and a more natural state of a human being, which includes spontaneous kindness and compassion. Of course, many of us are far from that, but that doesn't mean it's not there. We learn how to access it more readily over the years. And that's what we should be doing. We should be trying to access that for reals rather than thinking what we should say that sounds kind or compassionate.
When I think about this topic, I often feel that the best thing that I could do around being more honest or just letting myself out a little bit more is just to continue with working on my relationship with anger, because I think some of the holding back is just not knowing what's going to come out of my mouth. I was just wondering if you see any other avenues.
Yeah. Sometimes when you feel that anger, you recognize that it's based on a projection. Sometimes when you feel that anger, you're not sure. And sometimes when you feel that anger, you're convinced that there's something to be angry about. I've engaged with you when you've been in all three of those conditions. The best thing to do, if you're feeling anger and you know it's a projection, but you still feel it, or you're not sure, and if there's some context or reason for sharing that, someone asks you how you're feeling or you're having a difficult moment, you can just say to someone, I'm feeling my anger. That's what's happening. You don't really need to explain it, but you could actually just say how you're feeling. That's one way that we can share honestly, but also be responsible for what's actually happening. The thing about when you're convinced that there's a reasonable reason for you to be angry, in all cases, we know that what we call, sort of loosely speaking, enlightened anger is a kind of energy that expresses itself fiercely and with a sharp cutting through kind of feeling. But then it dissipates. It doesn't stick around and mull over itself or build cases or try to figure out what's real and what's not. It just happens, and then the person who's expressed that feels completely fine. There's no residue. So even if you have, reasons for being in a state of continual resentment, you also have to understand that that's not where you're headed. The solution to your anger is not to only be angry when it's real and not to be angry when you're projecting. That's not the solution. I mean, obviously that would feel better if you always knew that, but your destination is something quite different than that. So it's not like you're going to get to this place where I know that you did something that's worth being angry about, and now I'm going to take you to task about it. That's just part of the whole picture. So I think finding shorter ways of just letting people know how you're feeling without getting into everything that's going on in your head would be a good start. Because that way you wouldn't have to have this feeling of suppressing it behind a wall.
I want to answer back to your question about honesty. And something that's coming up for me is that I'm also afraid of fear. and that often comes in the way of listening or hearing somebody, and I mount a defense without fully hearing points of views. So I'm realizing that if I let the other person communicate to me what they're trying to say, there's relaxation, that people are watching my back, things like that. So I take the invitation.
I really don't want anything from people other than honesty, because that's like the basis from which we can work together. If people are dishonest, and I'm using that word very broadly, I just have to wait, because you cannot work with dishonesty. There's no material there to work with other than dishonesty itself. Let's create an honesty bubble. Satsang with Shambhavi is produced by Jaya Kula, a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. If you enjoyed listening, please help us keep this podcast and many other teachings open to all by making a monthly or one-time donation. Visit jayakula.org to make a donation and explore more of our offerings.